Hey there, Cheesemeisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff. Thank you, Bert Healy. And joining me on the other end of the internet, my cuz-host.
I'm Leslie, and I don't stoop to what you're incinerating.
You know what? Bernadette Peters does not get enough to do in this movie. And I think that, that's probably true of every movie. Even The Jerk, where she's the female lead. More Bernadette Peters in everything.
Yeah. Her boobs get to do a lot, but she makes a meal out of the few lines she gets. I wasn't mad about it either. She's adorable. She's beautiful in everything at every age.
That's right. The Peach Pod and the Peach Pod After Dark, both pro Bernadette Peters. I think it's an official edict. Stamp.
Hell yeah.
Now I want an edict stamp we can just put on the screen.
Like they do on John Oliver.
Yeah.
With voice.
Yeah, less pumpkin spice latte related, but yeah, I think so.
That's fine.
All right, so this week, Cheesemeisters, we're doing Annie, the 1982 Depression-era adoption musical masterpiece directed by John Huston. John Huston, who directed The African Queen and this Treasure of Sierra Madre and The Asphalt Jungle and The Maltese fucking Falcon.
Oh.
Directed Annie. That is information. New shit has come to light, dude, because I did not know that until like 10 minutes ago.
This explains the whole bridge of it all.
Oh, what do you mean?
I just feel like he went, you know what? Let's take a musical about a cartoon and make it an action movie. In the last 15 minutes, we will make you so anxious for this child's welfare.
Okay, we have to talk about that because I don't know enough about the play and whatnot of this to know what was changed, but I feel like there was a bunch. But
I got you.
I knew you would. So this movie stars Aileen Quinn, Albert Finney, Carol Burnett, the aforementioned Bernadette Peters, Joffrey Holder as Jeffrey Holder. I say it's Joffrey because I don't spell my name with a G because I'm not British. It's
to
weird.
Acknowledge that spelling of Jeff.
No, it's a real spelling. Jeffrey Holder, Jeffrey with a G, and Dr. Frankenfurter himself, Tim Curry. God damn, we love Wadsworth here. Edict. It's 2 edicts in a row. Yeah, we like Rooster and Lady Rooster, whatever her character's name
Lily
is.
St. Regis named after the hotel.
The Lily Hotel?
Wow.
I know. I'm awesome.
There's going to be so much reenacting because there are so many great things that everyone in this movie has done.
Yeah, that's very true.
We have
very true.
Mr. Gillimore.
Right, as FDR. Yes.
I was like, oh!
Just once at a Friday dinner, would you have liked for him to have said, "Sing out, Emily"?
Yes.
Because I kind of would have. I think that would have been great.
Sing.
That is an order from your grandfather, Lorelei Gilmore.
This is... Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it now. This is my favorite interpretation of FDR.
I don't know how many interpretations of FDR I've experienced. This is the one that's foremost in my mind because I've seen this movie a million times.
It's now your second on this podcast.
Was there an actor doing that, or did they just cut the news footage? Because I looked away when FDR was doing that in Pearl Harbor.
Jon Voight?
Oh, I meant all I was thinking of was him being given the speech.
No, I think that was actually Jon Voight's voice.
I don't know. Fuck Pearl Harbor. Just Pearl Harbor out here catching strays.
Shots fired.
That's right.
Pearl Harbor is never safe.
Deal with it. Splashdown and Flyboy and Nursey. So we're doing this in conjunction. This is going to be a loose episode. I can already feel it. And
but it's going to be great.
It's like 9 in the morning. Like it's not too late. We're not like out of our minds or anything. This is just, I don't know. It's going to be something. So we're doing this in conjunction with season 2, episode 18, A Walsh Family Christmas. And our spelling connection, God bless it, is Tim Curry, because he was in the Charlie's Angels movie, which means we can watch literally everything from Tim Curry for this podcast, which is wonderful.
Fine by me. Also, yeah, I would be remiss as a musical theater nerd if we forgot to mention Anne Rankin, I'm pretty sure. And we will put respect on Bob Fosse's other muse.
Tell me about this Anne Rankin connection to this, because I don't know.
She's Grace Farrell.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, okay. That's why they added in all the dances, because Grace does not dance that much.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't even. I kind of forgot about her when I was looking at like who was in this movie, and it's because Anne Rankin doesn't like. I don't know her other than as being Grace Farrell.
That's
like
fair.
I don't know if I've seen her in anything else.
We need to find a way to watch All That Jazz, because that I would say is her big thing. I mean, it's the Bob Fosse,
right? Okay.
Autobio, unofficially.
Well, we'll add it to the list of shit Jeff doesn't know. So
I would say she's probably made a bigger impact on stage than on screen, because I don't know how many people gave her a shot outside of him.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things.
Yeah. The system. All right. So the reason we're watching this in conjunction with the Walsh Family Christmas is because neither one of us wanted to watch Miracle on 34th Street.
Nope.
Which like made a ton of sense in connection with that episode. You know, they bring home the homeless guy. Is he Santa or is he just a crazy person? Whatever. Yeah. That whole thing. But there's also this adoption story where Steve goes to find his mom and dad, his birth parents in New Mexico, and discovers without the help of a broken locket that his mom died, and who the hell knows who his dad is. At this point in time, who the hell knows who his dad is? So we're like, well, what about adoption movies? And you said, guess what I love? Annie. And I said, you know what I love? Kind of Annie. So we're watching Annie.
And we got Annie.
We got Annie.
This is the most anyone has ever loved a little girl. Appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, she's not the only likable person in this movie.
No. But
there aren't very many. It's pretty much her and Grace and Punjab, I think. Like, those are the ones that are likable.
I forgot. I mean, there's so much in this movie that I forgot that I loved. But Punjab definitely being one of them. I remember when I did the show, I was so disappointed that he's not in the musical. I don't understand why, but from a casting point, and since this was a high school, a predominantly white high school, I'm glad we didn't try.
Yeah.
I'm glad for the sake of
You don't think it would have worked if his name was just Petey and he was just a guy? Like, I mean, Petey can't make shit float, which I'm assuming is like integral to
the heal your leg.
Yeah. 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 Punjab got some powers. I was all about Punjab when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So what's this movie about? This movie is about a little redheaded orphan girl who came to life from a comic strip and was adopted by a warmongerer and was
for
almost
his PR.
Yeah, no, it's a total PR stunt. And then was used by FDR, wanted to be used by FDR in a similar capacity. And then is almost murdered by a rooster and a hotel on a bridge, and gets adopted, and there's fireworks and everybody sings and dances a fuck ton in this movie.
How life should be.
It would be better if there was more singing and dancing. I agree with that.
Yes, we'd finally be organized.
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone would know exactly where they're supposed to be at every moment of every instance of everything.
Oh my God. I'm just imagining a world where people have spatial awareness.
I tell you what, it is not a comparison I expected to make. But your dream of everyone dancing through life is my experience of trying to go to the bathroom at a Phish concert. Yeah, I've gone to one Phish concert. Went with my brother. He's a big Phish fan, and I tried to go to the bathroom once. And you know how like there are aisles that people walk through, and you know a lot of times people sort of on the left hand side, you know, there's sort of an agreed upon set of structures for how you walk in any kind of public space. Those rules go out the window when Phish is playing. You cannot walk in any kind of direct path. And I discovered this about halfway to the bathroom. I realized that the only way I could get there was to dance my way to the bathroom. You have to like sort of dip through people and spin around. And I got to the bathroom very easily once I started musically moving through the space. You just can't walk. So Leslie's dream, life is like a Phish concert.
I'll take it.
Also, everyone's really high. So also Leslie's dream.
Honestly. But me too, please. I could use that level of zen permanently without having to like, do I have enough money this week to buy buy edibles?
I recommend dancing your way to the bathroom.
All right.
And see if that works. You know. Anyway, so lots of singing and dancing in this movie. So I want to talk about our individual histories with Annie.
Yay!
Because we both have history with this movie, particularly for me, but you have history with the stage production, and I don't know anything about that. So I want to learn all about it, but I want to give you my quick history with this, which is that I've seen it a shit ton.
Yes.
Which we talked about. Like I watched this a bunch when I was a kid. It was one of the movies in our VHS tape collection. And the summer that we watched things alphabetically, we watched this one early because that's how the alphabet works. And here's the thing I didn't know until like 2 years ago when I happened to watch this. And then I was reinforced when I watched it this week. I saw the edited for TV version. So there are there's like 3 songs missing from my experience of this movie. That when I watch it, and the movie, by the way, works without them. The way they cut it, you don't lose any plot, but you do lose some like wonderful performance stuff.
Yeah.
So the first song I didn't get was I don't remember the names of these songs either. I know I texted you about it.
You said Little Girls,
but it was something about Little Girls. Easy. I was like something about girls. I
can see that.
Yeah. And I didn't see Easy Street, and I didn't see any of Little Girls. So the first time I'm introduced to Rooster and the hotel is when they show up at her door, cock-a-doodle-doo, and he pulls off the fake mustache that he puts over his tinier mustache, which is like Superman level disguise work.
Yes.
But it fools the fuck out of his sister. So, you know, and she wore a wig or something. And she was totally drunk. Yeah, 100% of the time. But she was drunk every other time she saw him, so I figure that kind of has to balance it out, right? You know, like if you only ever see someone when you're drunk, you have to, I would imagine, have the same impression of them every time because you are in the same state of mind.
I never knew as a kid that she was drunk or that she was making bathtub gin, which is insane. That shows you, again, how naive little Leslie was.
Right, the things you didn't notice. I mean, it is very clear she's hammered in every scene. I mean, that's Miss Hannigan is hammered and horny, and that's all we got going. She's Triple H.
I think I knew during Little Girls she was hammered because it gives the and right. You know, as a kid, somehow you pick up like that does something to you.
Right.
I don't know what, but I will someday.
Just sloppy. So yeah, they cut that whole scene out. And so I don't meet those characters till later. And when I do meet those characters, they cut out the Easy Street song. Almost, I think entirely.
Crimes.
And they go from Daddy Borbuck saying, "Buy out Radio City Music Hall," to them pulling up in front of it. So all you get from that song is that lead in and then the dance number, on stage.
Yeah.
You don't get any of the stuff of her and Annie singing while they get dressed and talking about how great the movies are and et cetera, et cetera. So I have a very deep experience with this movie that happens to be very incomplete. You're just missing a bunch of shit. But the shit I know like way down deep in my body. Like, this is how I learned what Beau Brummel means. And, if you're learning Beau Brummel at 8, there's something. There's something like it. So tell me your experience with this movie, this play, all of it, the Annie.
So like you, I grew up watching this movie a lot. Mm-hmm. I think there's specific... This is such a strange memory, but I know there was a summer where I would go out when my parents were going to garden, and then after 10 minutes of realizing I'm hot, I don't like this, I would go inside, and I guess I would pop in the movie Annie, or if it was on TV a lot that summer, I really can't remember one of those two, but I would I would eat cheese crackers while watching it. So that's my young memory. And then they did it at my mom's school where she taught. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to toot my own horn and say I was fortunate enough to play Annie.
Woo. Even though you're not a natural redhead.
There we are.
Aww. Sandy.
Fun. Who's not very sandy.
I mean, it's the right color.
Well, and I think I told you this, but of course I've got to share on here. Fun fact, I was terrified of dogs as a child.
Yeah, that must make doing Annie difficult.
Yeah, but if there's one way to get me to do anything, it's cast me in a role where I have to learn how to do something or get over a fear, unless it's put a spider on my face. Not doing that.
Yeah. What if I said you don't have to put a spider on your face, but I get to hit you with a crowbar? Like right across the sternum.
Let me talk to the fight choreographer first.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we're not doing that method shit here. So yeah, I have an attachment to both. I love this movie, even though it is quite different from the musical.
So tell me about that, because the first thought I had watching this was the scene when the "You're Gonna Like It Here" number, where Sandy has to do a whole lot of running back and forth.
Oh yeah, he's not in that scene.
But okay, but what about how much does that dog? I was like, can you even have a dog on stage who does this level of live acting without getting distracted and piddling everywhere or whatever? So I was like, do you have one, or you just walk around with a little stuffed puppy? I don't know how this works. So tell me how it works to have a dog on stage.
So luckily for me, we tried out 2 different dogs for this. And of course they were both other classmates' dogs. This one was the chillest, but I remember specifically, so when I would sing Rocky, that was his name, he would just lay on the stage in front of me and just did not mind that a 12-year-old was belting in his ears. For all I know, nice. He didn't hear much. It was great. Did not upstage me. My kind of dog. Yeah. But then there's a number. So in the musical, you have songs like "We'd Like to Thank You, Herbert Hoover" and "A New Deal for Christmas," that there's a much more cynical vibe. Obviously, you get to see a lot more of the hobo villages, the Hoovervilles of the time.
Who sings the Herbert Hoover song?
All the poor people. Because Annie, when she is still not caught and taken back to the orphanage with Sandy, she's walking around the city.
She hangs out in Hooverville. Okay.
She hangs out in Hooverville. And they all sing the song, and then the cops raid it, and Annie gets caught at that point. But I had to run off stage with the dog, and that dog never wanted to run. And so my parents love making fun of me, saying like, man, I thought you were going to break that dog's poor head. And I'm like, it wasn't. Follow direction.
The dog, you know what? That dog, big Herbert Hoover guy.
You know, here's the other thing. So you know the scene where the cops like, or the dog catcher goes, all right, call the dog. If he's really yours, he'll come to you. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Sandy. The dog never came to me. I would just have to be like, good, Sandy, and like wrap my arms around it.
Yeah, that was the other thing I wondered about. Like, could you get that dog to come to you on stage, and how you deal with it if they don't?
I think we did try treats, but the thing is, the dog immediately comes to you. You
needed to wait, and then
you needed to wait and see. And this is where, if you're a bigger theater and you have the budget to have like a dog trainer, or if you have the time to look around your local community and find a dog who is well trained, like
a working dog,
then you have them on for minimal scenes, because again, they're going to get distracted. Mm-hmm. Usually Sandy's only in the scenes like when you first meet Sandy. Mm-hmm. There aren't little boys beating him up in the musical.
Thank God. Fuck those little boys.
Yeah, fuck them. They're, you see him in the, I know. I sadly didn't get to beat anyone up.
Yeah.
I got to stop on some people's feet.
There you go. They never miss.
Never miss. So yeah, I think you only see Sandy for like 2 scenes, maybe in the end, just to be like, oh, he's still here. But mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't see him, and I think I'm gonna like it here because everyone's dancing, and mm-hmm. Yeah, when you can't cut and edit around an animal, it's just best to have them on for the briefest of instances, do a trick, and then they leave. Because the same thing happens in Legally Blonde. You have 2 different dogs, and Bruiser, I think that's the name, comes on for one, maybe comes back later on, but like, I mean, we just saw The Wiz and there was no dog. Toto, not
Toto there. Is a load-bearing member of that production. That's weird, but okay. So, see, you don't remember this because you were too little. But when Miss Saigon was staged for the first time, mm-hmm. It was like the holy fuck, they landed a helicopter in the middle of the stage thing. Yeah. I'm now thinking that the helicopter thing is easier than the dog thing.
I mean, isn't it the Coen brothers who said, like, I'm never working with a cat again after doing Inside Llewyn Davis or something? Or like, I think they said something along the lines of the 2 worst people to work with are pets and kids.
Well, that's a W.C. Fields thing, I think.
Oh, never mind. Wrong person.
Never wanted to never work with kids or animals. I think was the have you seen you've seen Best in Show? Yeah,
I have.
I can't remember if this is an outtake, because the outtakes in this movie are great, or if it's actually in the movie. But at the end, Chris Guest is doing his show, his little cowboy show, and he does impressions at some point. Uh-huh. And his impression of W.C. Fields is, I'm W.C. Fields. I don't like children. It's the whole impression.
Wow.
I don't like children. It's true.
The last thing I was going to mention about the main difference between the musical and this, just to keep it concise, because there are a lot of differences, but like the main thing is the ending, and it's all because the movie doesn't take place at Christmas. They're doing it in the summer.
Okay.
In the musical, it's Christmas time, so that way you feel sorrier for the poor people because they're freezing.
Right. Yeah.
We don't care about them in the hot months.
Right.
But, and also there's a big change. So Miss Hannigan steps in for Lily to portray Annie's mother because she's like, you're too dumb, you're gonna blow up, you're gonna ruin it. Like, Lily has a bigger part slightly on stage.
Gotcha.
And so Miss Hannigan and Rooster go to pretend they're Annie's parents, and they
Mhm.
almost get away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids, because the orphans get it out of Lily, and they race to the Warbuck mansion, and
Okay.
uh, and Miss Hannigan she doesn't get redeemed in the musical like she does
Okay.
on stage, and I wonder, or I'm sorry, on film,
Yeah.
and I feel like they did that because we love Carol Burnett, and we just
Right.
don't want her to be evil. We want her to be
Right.
funny. Because, at least in the movie, you have her realize, like, oh, he's really gonna kill her.
Right.
Still awful.
Yeah.
Like, as I'm watching it, I was thinking, man, I want to play this role, but gotta wrap my head around some things.
Yeah. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Hannigan.
But yeah, so she's a lot more evil in the musical. Like
the fruit of the devil.
You want her to be taken away.
Okay.
And she is.
Okay.
You want her to be arrested. They all are.
So no railroad bridge going vertically?
No. You get the comedy of errors of it all at the very end. Like, they're about to get away with it, and then everything, like, all the shit gets thrown in their way. Lily shows up and because she thinks she's gonna get cut out of the final fee, whatever.
Right.
And then Miss Hannigan tries to escape, and then the kids show up and say, "We love you, Miss Hannigan," and expose her. And the best part, I was watching this earlier because Miss Hannigan tries to plead to Annie, like, "Come on, tell them I was always nice to you and how good I was to you." And Annie goes, "Gee, Miss Hannigan, I would, but the thing you always taught me was never tell a lie." And it's amazing.
Nice. Okay. I guess I understand why you make that change in the movie. Just because it brings more drama to the screen.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's like, why make this a movie if you don't make it a movie?
Sondheim has said that, or did say that, about whenever his musicals were being put on film, because people wanted to hear that he hated them on film, but he was very supportive and said, look, they have to be different. What happens on stage isn't going to translate to the same way on screen. And he's right. Doesn't mean I like a lot of the movie musicals, but at least they're trying.
Laura just came and handed me this.
I have that.
Leslie has that.
I have the doll.
Where is this from?
So,
it's from a doll?
Well, I think it's either part of a doll. My sister gets me the best gifts for when I'm in shows, and this was the start of it. She got me this old-fashioned cartoon Annie doll.
Okay.
She has a little Sandy in her pocket.
Of course.
And then she has the necklace, just like what you held up. It's not a locket. I am wearing something, the closest that I have to a locket today. But yeah, that's
Bitcoin
awesome.
symbol. Is that what that is?
It's a little journal. You open it up and it has...
it looked like it was like a bee on it. So I was like, are you just hawking Bitcoin?
How dare you? It has little notes in it.
Oh, nice.
Little inspiring quotes.
Very cool.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Sorry, I wasn't... Yeah, I didn't know this was coming. It's a little surprise.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. So I interrupted you with that. Sorry. So I don't know where
No, it's
your train of
okay.
thought was going.
I don't remember where I was even.
And we were talking about the Sondheim and it not being things being different, and
just that stage to movie, it has to be different. And so while this movie version did not do well, most of them don't, I like it.
Didn't do well in what way?
It wasn't rated favorably.
I guess
the writers of it, the play, did not like it because they felt like it was downplaying a lot of the message. I don't see that personally, but then again, who am I to them in this story? Like,
right.
I played her when I was 12, and as you saw me doing research beforehand, I didn't realize I knew while watching this how layered with politics it was, but now reading more about the cartoon itself is like really disappointing. But it is what it is, and so I'm fine that I feel like the movie is a nice blend of what the musical is, but then also what the cartoon was, which is political satire in a way.
So tell me about the comic strip, because I never really read it and I didn't do any research this week. I know you were looking into it.
I sadly didn't read it either, and when I mentioned it to my sister, she said, well, it was either I buy you the comic book or I buy you the doll. And the doll seemed more like what you were going to want. And she was right. She was absolutely right. From what I read about the comics, you know, Daddy Warbucks is definitely a thing. Daddy Warbucks has a wife, so Grace Farrell isn't in it. The wife is terrible. From what I gathered, Annie is the only nice woman, the only favorably written female part.
Okay.
And you don't have Miss Hannigan, you have Miss Asthma or Miss Treat.
Huh. Okay.
Do you have Punjab in the Asp?
Racist, I'm quite sure.
I'm quite sure it's even worse than how it was depicted in the movie in the 80s.
I'm certain of it.
Yeah, we're lucky.
I've seen Marvel comics from World War II. I know I know how Asians are depicted in comic books and art in the 1930s and 40s. It ain't good.
That's a whole other musical discussion in and of itself, because there are so many awful portrayals of Asians in musicals.
Yeah.
And they're always from the 1920s and 30s. But so with this comic, in the movie, it seems like Annie is supposed to be a nice go-between the Republican and the Democrat side. Like, hey, children can bring them both together. If we just work together for the children, then we'll be fine. If only.
Right.
The comics I just read were basically far-right propaganda. And I'm very sad now.
Like what was the message of the comics then? That like
I didn't get to
rich people are okay after all, even though they only care about capitalism and money?
I'm guessing that, because the thing is, Annie, I think for the first few years, goes back and forth quite a bit between the Warbucks mansion and the orphanage, which weird.
Well, that seems like a real stand-up thing to do, Daddy Warbucks. Just send her back to the orphanage every time.
Well, no, Mrs. Warbucks is always sending her back.
Oh, okay, sure, lady, I get it. Okay, so the evil step monster.
Yeah.
So here, because I think the message of the movie, the play, is weird.
Yeah.
Because it's very much. It seems like the message is, you can kind of charm your way into things going better for you. But eventually the world's going to beat that out of you. But it's okay if you have a rich guy who can help you out. Like, and the rich guy will help you out if you just spend like 3 or 4 days with him. You know, like, he's a shithead. But 3 or 4 days with a redhead will change your whole worldview, that's true. Like, it's not quibble. That's just facts. But so maybe that's it. 3 or 4 days with a redhead will straighten you right out. Or kink you right up, depending on how things go.
Yeah, right. He is daddy.
Yeah. But he's like, in the movie, he's very clearly awful. Like, he doesn't care about other people. He's like, his first instinct is to Sean Penn the shit out of that cameraman. That's a real life thing that happened that you were probably too young for.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and but then like Sonny Corleone just throws some money at him after breaking his camera. There's a lot of people just beating up cameramen in movies and in real life, I suppose. But and then she's like, your image. He's like, oh, my image. Yes. Oh, I wanted a boy. Orphaned. She's a girl. Orphans are boys. And then he's like, all he's doing is like shouting "buy copper" at people on the phone, and like trying to get, I think, the British or somebody to buy his warplanes, or no, the French maybe. I can't remember who. He's yelling at somebody to have them buy more of his planes. I mean, he's just out to make money off the war, which we're not involved in yet.
No.
But he is, because he's, I don't know if you picked this up. It's subtle. His name is War Bucks. That means money from war. I mean, it's not exactly like calling someone Merkin Muffley, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
So yeah, this guy is a war profiteer. And what if one of our airmen died? and he takes Annie in, falls in love with her, like wants her as his daughter or his like ward. Like gonna get some Batman Robin. I would like that if Daddy Warbucks fought crime, because I don't know who's richer, him or Bruce Wayne, but they both are rich. They both take on a young ward. Maybe that's where the comparisons end. I don't know, but is Daddy Warbucks Batman is an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
Which one of them helped the poor more?
Bruce Wayne.
I don't know. I think Bruce Wayne, if he just like invested in infrastructure, like this probably would have done more good than being Batman and beating people up. Like,
See, but even Hollywood is trying not to set our expectations too high. They're like, listen, they're only going to help one person.
That's the thing. Like, Danny Warbucks is a billionaire in 1935 or whenever this is set.
Around there.
He can afford to adopt all of the kids from the orphanage if he wanted to, or he could, at the very least, like invest money in it and like make it a nice place to live and hire someone who's not a horny drunk to run it. Like, he could do lots, but instead he's like, where are the elephants and fireworks? Because that's what I need to spend my money on.
And a phone in his car.
Yeah, and a phone in his plane or his helicopter, his autocopter.
Oh, that's right, his autocopter.
I know. I like an autocopter. And just landed in your backyard, Franklin. All Republicans are coming to the White House. It's the upfront politics of this are pretty funny. It's like
I didn't remember how many jokes. I feel like they definitely made more jokes about Republicans. And they certainly made Democrats look more favorable in this. But then there's that moment where FDR kind of pulls Annie in to be a pawn, and it's like, oh, damn, you're both using a child.
No, it's FDR is Nat, and Daddy Warbucks is the asshole who was paying for the Beverly Hills baseball team. Like, they're both bringing in ringers.
Yeah.
Like they're both trying to win, and they're doing it the same way. We just like one of them better. But yeah, it's the whole thing with like, okay, FDR's plan is to put Daddy Warbucks in charge of the WPA, which seems like a terrible idea. I don't think that's going to work. And maybe put Annie also in charge of the WPA, But also maybe just stick her on some posters. Like give her the Captain America treatment and send her out to sell war bonds or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It positions this kid in a real weird place. Like
it does. And again, kind of putting out the vibe of like, or putting out the message, you are only lovable. You are only as lovable for as cheery as you can be,
or the value you bring to the proposition in some capacity.
True. You know?
Like,
yeah, I don't know. I got so many mixed messages from this, and like I mentioned to you too, the mixed message I feel from musicals. Some musicals. I only have 2 examples here, but you know, when Grace isn't really even arguing, but of course, if you raise your voice above a 4 as a woman, you're yelling.
Right. I'm sorry I'm yelling, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah. In a man's ears, a 4 is an 8.
Right.
So Grace Farrell is all for having Warbucks adopt Annie, when really it's like, you seem like you want her more. Maybe you don't have the funds, or maybe because you're a single woman, you won't be allowed to adopt her. I don't know. Because like maybe it should have just been you and the staff. Again, that staff is much happier than I would imagine for having someone as awful as Mr. Warbucks running the place. But maybe he's barely there. I don't know.
I mean, they can't all have personal interactions with him every day.
That's true. But you know, when she's insisting that he adopt her and they're kind of going back and forth about it, all of a sudden he stops and goes, "You're very pretty when you're angry."
Right.
And there's a similar moment in Sound of Music when Maria and the captain first butt heads about dressing your children in drapes and taking them out to have fun. I would have loved to have worn drapes. Anyway, thankfully you have a much more romantic moment in that it's just in the gaze in that one, but it is strange. And I was talking about this with Walter about how like it's like they're telling us that men like it when women are assertive, and yet at the same time it only comes down to, oh, you're really pretty when you get fired up. Like, did you hear anything I just said?
Right.
Like, wait, because I remember I get so mad thinking again about, you know, all the times guys would tell me, I'd love to see you angry. Like, why? It won't be as pretty. It won't be as cute as you think.
Right.
Especially if I've had a couple bourbon in me. Like, it won't be cute. Yeah, basically. I turned into Annie.
Annie's boxing style is people are getting some shots in because she doesn't cover herself up all that well. It's real awkward. But I'll say this about Annie, and I think maybe that this is the new way we need to judge children in film. I fully believe that Annie would have kicked the shit out of Marv and other Marv.
Absolutely.
In a way that I did not believe that shithead Kevin would.
It's really funny, the juxtaposition from Kevin McAllister to Annie. You know, someone who is far more likable.
But equally as like
spunky,
sassy.
Yeah,
each of them gives shit back to the adults, but she doesn't come off like a dickhead. Well,
and I mean, you could argue too, the only way a little girl is going to be likable and a palatable protagonist is if she is plucky and cute and, you know, like doesn't get down and out about the fact that she's an orphan and not likely to be adopted. I mean, when every time she gets told no, she makes sure the adults feel okay about it. She's like, that's all right. I'll just go practice my backhand.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's like,
that's okay. You can ignore me. I'm gonna be just fine, even though I'm not. This is wounding me deeply.
Hashtag being a woman.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Did you ever see the Mary Tyler Moore Show?
Sadly, no, not yet.
There's I think it's in the pilot when she is interviewing for the job with Bud Grant, Lou Grant, Bud Grant, Bud Grant, Lou Grant, and he's it's a very funny scene. Like he's asking her a question, she gets flummoxed. He asks another question, she gives an answer to the previous question. Like they're out of sync in the conversation, which is pretty funny. But at some point, he's like, "You've got pluck," and she's like, "Well, yeah," and he goes, "I hate pluck." It's very funny. So that's what you said, pluck, a minute ago. So I just thought, I hate pluck.
Well, and I was thinking to a scene in the musical version too, where instead of being all plucky and okay with things, she does this, "Aw, gee."
Uh-huh.
And, he keeps trying to explain, like, well, this is why I have to do the, "Aw, gee."
Mm-hmm.
"Aw, gee." And I would almost break every night. So I had to look down.
Sure.
Which is very bad actor, but 12 in Clarksville. Who cared?
There you go.
People thought it was delightful.
Of course, you had pluck.
Yeah.
All right, so speaking of things that rhyme with pluck, Adventures in Intimacy.
Nicely done.
That was a professional transition right there, motherfuckers.
Hell yeah, it was. So we had a lot of comical intimacy in this. I mean, Miss Hannigan is desperate for a man.
Oh my God.
And I don't know if it's just because she's actually horny or if no, it is totally because she's horny.
She's horny.
She's been single, working with kids too long. The booze can only make one feel so comforted, especially if it's bathtub gin. I don't know. It's just so funny. It's one person right after the other. You have her interaction with Mr. Bundles, the cop. You don't get as much of that in the stage version. And I don't know if it's just, again, they wanted to play around with Carol Burnett or just the character itself. But I don't have a ton to say other than, like, I thought the comical, actually, no, that's not true. I have two things. I loved the comical intimacy added in. There's a very sweet moment if we're talking about intimacy between, like, how adults interact with a child they care about. When they bring her in from the movies, they put her to bed. They put her to bed. It's so sweet because I thought, it's got to be Grace who, like, does the changing, right? And they do it so beautifully. Like, Grace hands Mr. Warbucks the shoes, tells him, "Can you go grab her nightgown?" And he brings it over. Like, I know, cute. It's very cute, and they keep her, covered. They don't show anything, and, like, just slip it over her hands and her hair, and it's such a sweet moment, and it's so well handled, because I don't think in the 80s they were worried necessarily about anything being as creepy as it is now, but they really, and also Albert Finney, I think, is just, I like him in this role. I know the writers apparently didn't like how mean and bombastic they had him be, but it's the Warbucks I grew up knowing about the most. And I think you can see more clearly the change she's having on him, to the point where you can almost forget that it's not going to change his politics or how he handles his money, unfortunately. But yeah, I really loved that scene. Yeah, well done there. I thought about talking about the old movie Intimacy, but that's just an old movie and it's a movie within a movie, so there's kind of no point. Except for, like, my God, I feel bad for actresses in black and white movies if they had a super tall co-actor, because, like,
yeah,
whew, that hurts.
There's a one of my favorite Monty Python skits is Scott of the Antarctic, and they're it's them filming a movie, and I think John Cleese is the director, and he's drunk, and he's always yelling, "Reunite! Great! Great! Reunite!" And it goes from being this movie in the Antarctic to Scott of the Sahara because they're on a beach and they can't make snow. And but he still fights a penguin, which is real weird. But they have the play is or the movie is complicated by the fact that the male and female leads have different writers in their contract. Hers is that she can only act in a trench, and he can only act standing on a block 3 feet tall. So the whole thing is nuts. It's very funny. Reunite! But yeah, the trench and the thing just made me laugh. Anyway.
Also, I feel like the movie they went to see had nothing to do with the show itself, because usually when you do a film within a film kind of thing, there's a tie-in.
Right.
This one, they just said, what can we get our hands on? What's going to make Grace cry and have her and Mr. Warbucks have a moment, which...
Yeah. That's definitely
It is
a little weird. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, too, that's kind of a relationship that you do see come together more in the musical, and in the movie, it's just all of a sudden there.
Yeah.
Which, I feel like the actors do a good job of filling in where they can with, again, long looks. They had good chemistry. It's more of like the lack of writing and they weren't given a lot to work with for their relationship.
Yeah.
But they made it work.
Yeah.
So shout outs to those actors.
Yeah. I mean, this is where watching a movie when you're a little kid is so much different than critical response. Because I loved this movie. I saw this movie a shit ton. I watched it a lot. And knew all the songs and, did the whole thing.
I'm sure your dad loved that.
And I had no idea.
I said, I'm sure your dad loved hearing that all the time.
Oh, well, I was always making some kind of noises. Singing this or singing that. Or he preferred this probably to like the Humpty Dance or something. Or me walking around singing "Me So Horny."
Oh, God.
Those things probably went over less well. It was an impressionable youth. What are you gonna do? Speaking of music, let's go to Needle Drop Forest. I figure for this, there's just a lot of great songs. So, like, what song in this do you like? I feel like the answer is like at any given moment, it could be a different one. But like right this second, which of the songs pops to mind for you?
In terms of what? Like the one that hits me? Obviously, Tomorrow gets me.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Both as a kid, that's the song. Like,
yeah.
As a budding thespian, getting to sing that song I knew was going to be a big deal. And as I was watching it and I was home alone, I was like, I'm going to sing along with a lot of these. And it was fun. And like, it's such a sweet, hopeful song. I mean, the fact that the lyric is like, you're only a day away.
Right.
Like things can get better. And you certainly hope. Unfortunately, on the complete opposite end, the song that gets me, because I definitely had days working with kids where I thought of this a lot, is Little Girls. Like, it's but to broaden it to children in general, because I worked with, not just girls, but there are definitely days where you're like, oh my God, they're killing me. Like,
yeah, of course.
I just, oh my God. I can't even think of like the exact lyrics, but like, yeah, just the vibe of that. I want to sing and get to do that song just to like exude the exasperation one feels after a day of working with 30 children and trying to talk over them. So Annie and Miss Hannigan live in this odd Gemini body. I love them both. I love that song. It still gave me chills and it still made me cry. I shouldn't say still. It didn't make me cry as a child, but it definitely makes me cry now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just looking through the list of songs in this, and like I was a little like I think Maybe is really sweet and sad and all of that stuff. And Hard Knock Life is awesome. Like that's just nonstop banger start to finish. There's a reason Jay-Z said, "You know what I'd like to do." But the one that just stands out to me is Sign with Daddy Warbucks and Miss Hannigan.
Yeah.
He's trying to get her to sign the papers. Oh my God, that the back and forth of the two of them is so great. And I saw some people saying that there was some complaints at the time that both of them were just too over the top in the movie. In every scene, they're both just most acting. And
Disagree.
they are. But they really are, though. They're both just putting it out there.
I don't care. I love it. Maybe that's because I want to do. Maybe that's even though I don't feel comfortable there doing that yet, and yet I watch that and I go, I think I would rather do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just the two of them together, and him just insisting sign, and her trying to get him into bed the whole time is just there's so much fun there in that interplay. And I did not like Miss Hannigan as a kid. I just found her so fucking creepy.
Yeah.
She's mean. But when you watch this, when I watched it this week, I just there's so much in her performance that's so funny. And the Easy Street choreography where she walks into the wall twice as they're entering the door is very funny. And then she climbs through the window, and she's just all Carol Burnetting the whole thing. She's great.
They make it very clear she is not supposed to be desired.
Right.
Anyone else can be desired in this. But this woman is undesirable. She's a drunk. And she's mean to children.
Yeah. Which is a wonderful segue to What Else Time. Because one of the things that is in my What Else is, do the orphans get treated better if Mr. Bundle or the cop or the dog catcher or Daddy Warbucks or literally any man gives Miss Hannigan what she wants?
No.
If she's getting the pipe laid to her on a regular basis, is she a more pleasant person to these children? Because I feel like that would take a lot of the edge off.
I mean, it would help, but if you consider the world that they're living in,
right,
there's a lot of stress. The country is in shambles. With no end in sight. Some shit's happening abroad that I don't know how much people knew about in America in the 30s because, again, shit was so bad here. Yeah, it's
blinders.
How can you... It's similar... Bear with me a minute. It's similar to how I feel now. Yes, I'm lucky I have a partner and everything, but it doesn't stop me from stressing about things happening out there.
Sure.
And now that we have the ability to know what's happening everywhere to some extent, that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
It's so I think having a man in her life might have helped. Maybe it wouldn't have solved it. She just was in the wrong job, but the girl needed a job. Because as Miss Farrell says, it's an awful time to be out of work, isn't it, Miss Hannigan?
Well, I mean, ain't that the triple truth, Ruth?
And there's no gig economy yet, because you can go to vaudeville, but you ain't gonna be paid.
Right. Yeah. No, it wouldn't have been so good for her, I don't think.
No.
What else do you have?
I couldn't help but notice how leggy this show is, and how much there's a. And it's, yes, we have the Rockettes. That's the obvious choice. Yep. Also, did you notice how at one point there are Rockettes who were doing handstands for a decent amount of time, and to the point where I got distracted because I thought, this can't be healthy.
It's difficult. That's for sure. I don't know. Bruce Wayne sleeps hanging upside down like a bat.
He's not real.
Neither are the Rockettes. That's
they are too.
They are. Shouts to Roxy from the Chuck and Roxy podcast that I went on. She's a Rockette.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a very vaudevillian musical in the focus. There being so much legs, you know?
Yeah.
And there's almost a burlesque nature to it as well, because there's a lot of like flashing of the bloomers from all the women. If it's not Carter, it's the bloomers. Yeah. And, you know, that happened a lot with Shirley Temple. I don't know. And, you know, you see it on Annie. You see it with Grace Farrell dancing around. It's obviously, it's different when you see like children versus adults, but it's something I noticed. And I think it's a quote in the producers, like, or maybe not even the producers. It's a quote in general. And I thought I did a lot of research for this, but clearly not, because I have quotes and no quoters in my back pocket. But, you know, something along the lines of, you know, to make a successful musical, you gotta have legs. Like it's gotta be funny, and you gotta have legs.
Yeah.
This one has legs.
I thought it was in order to have a musical, you gotta have brains and you gotta have balls, and he's got too much of one and not enough of the other.
Wow.
No, wait, that's Shooting Pool.
Yep.
I forgot which thing we were talking about.
You just wanted to have an excuse to, you know, bring up the other daddy of this pod.
Oh, that's your daddy, Warbucks.
I know.
So the other, just one tiny little what else that I have means more to me than it does to you. But Cindy Mancini is one of the orphans. The lead in Can't Buy Me Love, who has the leather white that gets ruined and she dates Ronald Miller. Yeah, she's one of the orphans, and you can see her a bunch in the in Hard Knock Life. She's in that part of the she's in there. And she passed away, I don't know, 10 years ago. Yeah, she very young.
Oh God.
Something like that. Yeah. But before that happened, like when I first noticed her in this, I looked her up on IMDb, and her bio was clearly written by her or like her very best friend, because it was like it was like Flavor Flav hype man level. It was like, some consider her one of the greatest actors of her generation. Like, it's like, well, you're laying it on thick there, IMDb bio person. Yeah, her team was out there just spreading the good word of Cindy Mancini's real name, which I don't know.
They would like a new person to represent.
There you go. I think that's a good idea. Cindy Mancini's people, reach out.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Another what else I want to note, Camille, the movie they watch.
Yeah.
I feel like that's got to be the basis of the opera La Traviata, or actually swap that. Camille
Probably
might be, because opera's older. I feel like Camille has to be the non-operatic version of La Traviata, and also, which both are kind of the setup for Moulin Rouge, because they all have a woman who is a performer, who has to turn down the love of her life to have better prospects, and then she's dying the whole time from tuberculosis or some shit.
That's I've never seen it.
That's what was hinted at to me. I mean, she also gets money thrown at her at one point from the lover she's trying to convince that, like, I don't love you anymore because I need to be with someone richer.
Her lover. Now is the time on Sprockets when we dance. Yeah, that took a turn.
It always does.
I was looking it up actually on IMDb to see if that kind of thing was referenced in here, but I don't know. It's based on a novel. Alexandre Dumas.
Oh.
Yeah, Traviata.
I was right.
Well, so he wrote Traviata 53 and Camille and I don't know. So those are movies he wrote, but so they seem to be related.
Okay. I mean,
so I think you nailed that.
To be fair,
well, he wrote these were written in the 1800s. These things.
To be fair, I feel like that theme is pretty popular. You know,
yeah.
Woman, a fallen woman who is working on the stage can't be with the man she wants to be with, and is also dying because she's a fallen woman.
I wonder why they went to that movie of all movies. You know, I guess it's, you go to whatever's playing.
He said the 8 o'clock show.
Yeah, buy out the 8 o'clock show. Have you ever had Baked Alaska? Because I wanted it. I've wanted it since I was a kid, just because it's like what he wanted for dessert. I have no idea what it is.
I mean, it was a pure American meal because she references like a ton of states. Virginia ham.
Mm-hmm.
I know she doesn't say. I'm going to add in Texas toast.
There should have been Texas toast by Dan. Idaho potatoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some shit. And Baked Alaska. No, I know what it looks like, but I've never had it.
Yeah. Now I want Baked Alaska again. It has renewed my interest in Baked Alaska.
All right. Well, if anyone wants to send us Baked Alaska.
Yeah, there you go. All right. What is this the EST of for you?
I think this is the meanest Tim Curry movie.
Maybe. He's very mean in this, that's for sure. He's straight up villainous.
He's straight up villainous. And I mean, even Alan Cumming upstages him or one-ups him in the movie musical version they did with Victor Garber and Kathy Bates in 1999. See, I know some things.
There you go.
But he's really mean in this.
He's super evil. Yeah, he's very
Then again,
evil.
Not that all people who have been to jail are evil. They're not. But like he has done time and has gotten out. So
now I would like to, as a counterpoint, present Pennywise the Clown.
Oh, fuck. That's hilarious. I knew I was going to eat my words.
Yeah, it's not the first. I mean, it's not the first thing I think of with Tim Curry. It's Clue for me. But it's Clue, and then it's Rocky Horror, and then it's probably it, and then it's Hunt for Red October. He's got a real small part in Hunt for Red October, because I don't think about Annie all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't. But he's very, very much in this movie and of this movie. But I don't think about Annie when I think about Bernadette Peters either. Like, I think of The Jerk, and I think of Sunday in the Park with George. That's what I think of. I think of Bernadette Peters.
Well, then I'm going to change it. I'm going to make it, because this was my other one. It's not the best movie about a comic strip, but it is the cutest.
It's pretty damn cute.
It's pretty damn cute. It's fun. It makes me feel the best.
Yep. All right. EST. I did not write anything down for this previously. So I would say that this is the Beau Brummelest movie. All I know is that it's not what you wear from, it's what you wear from ear to ear and not from head to toe.
That matters. Ah, the lovely Pointer Sisters.
Television commercial. I've never endorsed anything in my life. Yeah, I like that. It's an inter-laughing moment. But yeah, I very much enjoy that. That's pretty fun.
I love when she sees that he's not tap dancing and she's about to blow the lid off this and make
Jose.
Like,
yeah, it's really funny. They do linger on that shot quite a bit. Like they want you to know that she knows that this is some bullshit and she's about to call it out.
Yeah.
That guy's not everything I know is a lie.
She also may have the best wardrobe of any child actor in a musical. Like, I love all of her clothes. I want them. They would probably look a little weird on me now.
Yeah.
But I bet if I wore them to Coney Island, I'd be fine.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I love Annie.
Annie's pretty good. And we have once again proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling. Even Annie.
Even Annie.
Yay. We got Annie.
We got Annie.
All right, Cheesemeisters. So that's it for us this week. Next week, join us for Blades of Glory.
What a jump.
I know, it's quite a shift. In conjunction with Fire and Ice, where Brandon dates a figure skater, we're going to watch Blades of Glory, which seems like the most reasonable thing to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But until then, Cheesemeisters.
I'm out of things, but cheers.
Cheers.